It's Friday, August 7th, 2026. Fauci, Birthright Citizenship, and a Christian living under Sharia law, as well as Ask or Tell Me Anything, next on the AM Update. Thank you for listening. Another week on the AM Update. It is a Friday 5-pack on the Friday edition of the AM Update. We'll start with taking a second look at birthright citizenship. President Trump signed an executive order taking aim at the Supreme Court's recent birthright citizenship decision as he touts his new orders to crack down on birth tourism by removing eligibility for certain benefits from select groups of people. Here is President Trump and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller at the White House.
We had a very unfortunate decision in the Supreme Court concerning birthright. It was close, but a very, very unfortunate decision. So we're making adjustments because it's very unfair. This was done for a different reason. This was done right after the Civil War. This was for the babies of slaves. And what's happening now, people are building businesses around it. From wealthy people are building businesses around birthright citizenship.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller had this to say as well.
So today the president signed these two executive orders here relating to birthright citizenship and birth tourism. As the president mentioned, the 14th Amendment was passed exclusively in the aftermath of the Civil War so to ensure that the children of slaves would be citizens. It had no other meaning and purpose outside of that. And that's been clear, obviously, since the day that it was passed. You can go back and you can read the congressional debates. This is not something that's even seriously contested by anybody. The president is using his authority as commander-in-chief to sign first an executive order using the new ruling the Supreme Court issued to expand the definitions of people who are ineligible for birthright citizenship.
So that is what it does. It expands the definition, again, using the Supreme Court's own ruling, hopefully against the court system itself, in order to bar and make it as hard as possible for people who are coming here to commit the act of birth tourism to actually live here long term. So that is the first story in our Friday 5-pack. Let's go to this one as well. This went down yesterday morning. Senate Democrats tried but failed to block Rand Paul's contempt of Congress resolution against Dr. Anthony Fauci by a measure of 7-8. And I believe the Homeland Security Committee on the Senate that Senator Paul chairs. He also posted on social media yesterday he is bypassing the full Senate vote, sending this contempt of Congress charge directly to the Department of Justice. So maybe, just maybe, some accountability for Anthony Fauci, not just humiliation, although that is somewhat of a form of accountability, some real accountability for Anthony Fauci, hopefully coming out of the Department of Justice sooner than later. Let's go to story number 3 on our Friday 5-pack. Back to the world of female athletics. Coco Gauff, who is an American tennis star on the women's side of the ledger, she was asked, much like Arina Sabalenka earlier this week, who's the number 1 women's tennis player in the world, what her thoughts are about the World Tennis Association mandating sex testing to make sure dudes who feel pretty can't gum up the works and get an unfair advantage in tennis.
Hi, Coco. Hi. The WTA recently said it's going to give gender tests to the players on tour. What's your impression of that? What do you feel about it? And what did the WTA do to prepare you guys for what's to come on that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, I guess, with that, I mean, I know it's been something that's been talked about a while, but I've talked to a couple other players, and a lot of them didn't find out until the press release. So I do think that's something that could have been more transparent amongst players across the tour. As far as that, I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it. I do think that this kind of conversation is created a lot of animosity towards the trans community, which I'm not really a big fan of, but I also understand the need to, I guess, the biological difference and the need to protect that and preserve that. So I think it's a conversation that is very nuanced.
Coco Gauff, who has been outspoken in the past, very progressive leaning, very progressive person, coming out and saying, I understand, the biological differences. You want to have fairness, but also this has created a lot of animosity towards the trans community, and I don't agree with that. Translation, I am terrified of the quote-unquote trans community. So I'm trying to take this mealy-mouthed position on this issue, saying, yes, I don't want dudes competing in my sport. At the same time, I don't want crazy dudes attempting to crucify me either. That is story number 3 on our Friday 5-pack. Let's go to this. Story number 4. You'll recall, if you're a listener to the AM update, we had Mr. Kyle Schindler on our program last year. He's a national security expert, a counterterrorism expert. We talked to him about the threat of Antifa, what to do about it. He testified in front of the Senate yesterday. Senator Ted Cruz asked him, hey, Muslim Brotherhood, Antifa, Democratic Socialists of America, is there a connection here? Here's what Mr. Schindler had to say.
Does the Muslim Brotherhood also partner with political groups such as the Democratic Socialists of America?
Yes, sir, they do.
Would you agree that this alliance between the Muslim Brotherhood and the DSA, otherwise known as the Red-Green Alliance, is based on a shared hatred of America, Israel, Western civilization writ large, capitalism, and democracy?
Yes, sir, I would. And I would go further as to say it's also united around a revolutionary objective advocating for the overthrow of the U.S. Constitution.
So there you have it. Kyle Schindler, a longtime, I believe, heritage at one point, a longtime national security but counterterrorism expert, saying, yes, this red-green alliance between Islamists, radical Islamists, and the Democratic Socialists of America, that is really real. On a completely unrelated topic, a Christian refugee who currently resides in McKinney, Texas, showed up at the McKinney, Texas City Council, begging that city council not to allow a 5-acre Islamic center into McKinney. Listen to this.
Hello, my name is Eddie Issa. I'm a Sharia law survivor from Iran. And I'm here to tell you this is a dangerous ideology you're allowing in their country. Every country that is Islamic now, it used to be a Christian country. And we were soft Christians and we allowed these people to come in, bring their Sharia law into their countries and slowly kill us off left and right. Let me make it very clear to you. Christianity is a personal relationship with God where it says, render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. Islam is Sharia law, deen wa dawah, religion and state, which is not even compatible with the American thing. And when these people will use taqiyya to lie to you, to manipulate you, because whenever Islam is little, they will lie to you and tell you they come in peace. This is a bad idea, and you're going to regret not listening to people like us who lived under Sharia law.
So there's a Sharia law survivor, a Christian from Iran, warning the McKinney City Council against approving the 5-acre Islamic center proposed in that community. The resolution passed unanimously to allow it. Yeah, they listened to that guy and said, actually, we really want the Islamic center here. Tou Thao is the former Minneapolis Police Department officer who went to prison for being just in proximity to George Floyd during his I can't breathe drug overdose. He was interviewed on a podcast recently and said his Christian faith really saw him through to the end of his unfair prosecution and imprisonment.
Just me going to prison, I want to last 24 hours in a general population until they try to have me killed. So it just I'm not surprised it happened to Derek. Obviously, there's people in higher places in government that would want us dead. It's because if we die, then the truth dies. So it's pretty obvious that that could be a possibility for Derek as well. So I wasn't surprised when it happened to him. There's people in government that would like nothing better than Derek to die because everything goes away. The cover up just disappears, and there's no one left to expose it. So, I'm not naive enough to know that if I'm here talking and speaking, that they wouldn't want me to disappear as well. But, as, going back to my faith, we're not worried about that. We know where we're going. So, but then we also have a task that we have to accomplish. And that, for me, is to expose the works of darkness, Ephesians chapter 5, and also speak truth. And oftentimes it's not going to be popular. I could have taken the easy way out and sided with the woke mob.
When you say easy way out, do you specifically mean accepting the plea bargains, getting the lightest sentence, just sort of like, let me just get through this process with the least damage possible so I can return back to my family? Is that what you mean by the easy way out? Or
the easy way out would just lie.
Okay.
Just basically lie and take the woke narrative and run with it. And you know what? It might not be I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here.
Yeah.
But if I would have went that way, who knows? I could have been the chief of Minneapolis. I mean, it's not far-fetched, just how it is.
Former Minneapolis Police Department officer Tou Thao, who went to prison just for merely being in the vicinity of George Floyd's overdose, discussing how he was jumped in prison. He's not surprised the same thing happened to Derek Chauvin, who was kneeling on George Floyd, and how his Christian faith kept him from lying, taking the easy way out, and how he was penalized for telling the truth, for pleading his innocence. What a great story. That takes a ton of courage. And now he is out of prison and back with his family. When we come back, a little reminder about some housekeeping and some Ask or Tell Me Anything that's coming up next. All right, one final segment this week on the AM Update. We're going to get to some housekeeping. And just want to remind you, this is the final segment for I don't know how long in this studio. Because basically, as soon as I get done taping this episode, recording this, I'm going to have to start tearing this entire studio down, except for hopefully not the backing, but definitely some of the all of the equipment that I have set up here. And it's a sizable amount of equipment. Next week is when things really get crazy down in the basement. But I will continue to do my best to try to bring an episode to you every day, somehow, some way. Definitely for my Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/theamupdate. We'll get something out to those subscribers every single day. For the broader audience, it might be hit and miss, and I don't know how long it'll be hit and miss for. Like I said, I'll try my best. Let's go to Ask or Tell Me Anything. Let's go to priority for Ask or Tell Me Anything. Thomas Coomer says, in one of your recent updates, you mentioned per capita mosques, and you mentioned Ohio. I live in Kettering, Ohio, a suburb of Dayton, for the last 16 years, and before that lived on the west side of Cincinnati for more than 30 years. Lately, there sure seem to be a lot of women around here wearing hijabs. The local Costco feels like the United Nations with all the different languages you hear there. Last year, my son's 8th grade soccer team played a team from another Catholic school who spoke exclusively Spanish. When I take all this in, I can't help but feel we are being conquered. I don't know what to do. Sometimes I feel embarrassed to say things like this out loud, but I fear we are losing something in this country that we won't get back, and I don't know what to do about it. Thanks for reading, and I hope that I didn't sound crazy. Well, number one, Thomas, you don't sound crazy. Number two, it's funny that you say, sometimes I feel embarrassed to say things like this out loud, but I fear we are losing something in this country that we won't get back. The reason why you feel this, as if you'll allow me to psychoanalyze you, Thomas. The reason why you feel like we're losing something in this country that we won't be able to get back. Listen to me. This is a really complicated subject. I learned about it in the one psychology class that I took in college, and it's really hard to pronounce. The reason why you feel we're on the precipice of losing something we can't get back is because we're on the precipice of losing something we can't get back. Just going to let that breathe for a little bit. I know that's really hard to understand. Thomas, don't feel embarrassed about saying this. And thank you for your support at Patreon as well. And I don't know what to do about it. You know, it's going to be a long, slow process, and I pray that as much political capital as can be is expended on the mass deportation campaign. It has to be. It has to be. Because I fear we're losing something in this country we won't get back. That should be priority number 1A, 1B, 1C, is the deportations. Thomas, I think I said this on the AM update a few weeks ago. I saw something near the studio at my day job, behind the studio at my day job. It was some Muslim holiday. There's a big event center nearby, and you couldn't hardly drive your car in that area, around that area. I've been to Muslims. I've been to Muslims. I've been to London, and I've never seen as many Muslims as I saw a couple of months ago during this festival where all of these Muslims were gathered just right outside the doorsteps of where I go to work every day. Parking lot full of cars. Parking lots down the street full of cars. Hordes of Muslims in hijabs, obvious Muslims, coming across the street into this event center. That clip that we played last segment from that man in McKinney, Texas, the Iranian survivor of Sharia law. These people lie. Islamists lie. Muslims lie. Especially when they are a minority. So yeah, 2 mosques per 100,000 people right now in Minnesota is about half of, it's 2/3 of what it is in England, where it's really bad right now. And they feel less like they have to lie in England right now. It's just incompatible with our civilization. It's incompatible with our culture. It's incompatible with peace. It's incompatible with truth. It's incompatible with love. It's incompatible with basically anything and everything you and I hold dear. The Muslim, God loves the Muslim. He does. They're still made in his image. God hates sin. Islam is sin. And Muslims embrace Islam. Live Islam. Do the Islam. It doesn't make you an embarrassing person to say that out loud. Doesn't make you a hateful person to say that out loud. In fact, it makes you kind of rational. In fact, it makes you really rational. In fact, it makes you really smart. In fact, it makes you indicative of the fact that you can do 1 + 1, or God forbid, Allah forbid, 2 + 2. It's okay to say these things out loud. It just is. The more you say these things out loud, the less embarrassed you are to say these things out loud. Guess what? The Overton window switches. And you don't have to walk around on eggshells, because I promise you, the more embarrassed you feel to say things like, Islam is contrary to our civilization and everything we hold dear. Therefore, the Muslim is contrary to our civilization and everything we hold dear. The more embarrassed you are to say that, the more it ensures that the Muslim will destroy everything we hold dear, eventually. You can love the person behind the burqa. You can love the person underneath the robes or whatever it is Muslims wear, the Muslim men wear. You can minister to that person. In fact, I would say now's a fine time. Figure out where the most Muslims are being deported. Visit that deportation center, minister to them, share the gospel as they go back, get deported to their home country. How's that? How you like that, Islam? How you like them apples? We're going to proselytize the people you sent over here to conquer us. Send them back as apostles for our faith. Disciples for our faith. How you like them apples? I didn't know I was going to spend that much time on that question. I saw another question I thought come in on Ask or Tell Me Anything, but I'm not seeing it now. So I'm sorry. No, Melissa Bohannon asks, you're exactly right on the fraud issue. However, I'm not holding my breath on seeing actual budget cuts at any governmental level. Same. I'm not sure if that was asked for Ask or Tell Me Anything, but I wanted to get that in there. Let's go to general submissions over at Real AM Update on X. Let's get to this one from Redacted. Curious what program you use for background music. I'm assuming AI, like your day job. Last week, the fabulous Fauci, here's what happened intro, had a good song in the background. A second question is, what are you using to mix it with video, if different? So the background music I use on the AM update, none of that is AI. That's all produced stuff. I technically don't have it's an open source license, but it's on whatever the content ID software is for YouTube. The opening song for AM Update always gets dinged copyright. I don't care. I'm not making money on YouTube right now. But the other music you hear throughout AM Update, that is music I have the rights to, and I get it through, I believe it's Premium Beat. Yeah, Premium Beat has a really, I think as far as if you've looked at, royalty-filled music or royalty-free music that you have to pay for, it's pretty competitively priced. So the Fauci thing that I put together for the day job last week, that was AI. I did put that together. It just kind of worked. I needed something pretty specific. I had the idea for that montage at like 9:30 at night the day before, and I just had to get it out of my system, so I couldn't spend a ton of time looking for music. So I just told Suno exactly what I was looking for, kind of a brooding hip-hop beat, and it spit out that. There's a few other prompts in there. Second question is, what are you using to mix it with video if different? So I use Adobe Premiere for most of my stuff. Now on the day job, all of that is mixed live. The music that you hear is mixed live. So that really promotes just getting the content out as fast as possible after the show is done. But I use Adobe Premiere to do all of my editing. Let's end on this one. The real Frankie 5 says, or Frankie V says, why do non-denominational Christians always act like they're superior? As if that somehow makes their organization incorruptible and infallible. At least that's how they are near me. I haven't noticed this before, but I can kind of understand where you're coming from. It's kind of the same thing that I say about the above it all voter. The normie voter is not really a normie voter. I find the normie voter defaults to, I'm just so above it all. Those people bickering about politics and bickering about their debates, that's just beneath me. That's beneath me. Of course, I don't care about men. That's a non-issue. I'm sure they're either being hateful or they're being really stupid and weird. I don't care. I'm just above it all. That's really the normie. And so non-denominational is kind of the denominational version of the normie, which is not really normie. They excuse their lack of citizenship. They excuse their lack of engagement. They excuse that as them being morally superior. So I'm guessing probably it's the same impulse in non-denominational churches, but I haven't really noticed that. So I want to be careful not to say that in a really broad sense. Well, thank you again for listening this week on the AM Update. One final reminder. For the broader audience, it's going to be really spotty for I don't know how long. Let's see, mold remediation starts middle of next week, but I have to get stuff moved out of here starting like pronto. It sounds like maybe, hey, you want one more piece of thought, whatever that is. I'm tired. Do you want to hear a portrait? Do you want to see a portrait of what private equity does when it snaps up local business, family-owned businesses, locally operated businesses? Try, in the Midwest, try to call somebody in the foundation repair business. Private equity. I was doing some research into this after the second or third phone call to a local business brought me through to some conglomeration. I called a 515 area code. That's the Des Moines area code. Expecting to hear like Dan's Dry Basement or something like that. And the lady answers and said, hey, where are you at? And I said, I gave her my city name. What state is that in? So obviously not Dan's Dry Basement on the south side of Des Moines. They've been snapped up by some conglomeration. That's the same story I've found for probably half a dozen foundation repair or waterproof and basement waterproofing companies around here. So that's interesting. I meant to do an air analysis on that earlier this week, forgot. So, just got a lot of things to do down here. But we're very blessed, and we're thankful for that, and glad to have a roof over our heads. There are a lot of people suffering, really. Dry basement. It's not. I'm sorry. Wet basement. It's not really suffering. Got to get it fixed, but that's called home ownership. Everybody has the same experience. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hopefully for at least our Patreon supporters back at it again on Monday.